Hey, it's Greg Schweitzer, founder and chief catalyst at Catalyst Transformation Institute. And I wonder if you're feeling the same thing that I've been hearing from a lot of people over the course of the last year. And that is, why does it seem so hard to focus? Why does it seem like I can't stay focused on something, keep my attention on something for long enough? And I'm here to tell you that there is a war going on right now. And the greatest weapon in this war is for your attention and your affection. And we're going to talk about that for just a minute because I want you to win. You see, it's really frustrating to not be able to focus on doing that which gives us the greatest pleasure and the greatest success in life. And you already know that. You don't need me to tell you that. But what we need to know is, how do I stay focused? Well, let's talk about number one, to recognize where the trouble's coming from. I call this the attraction of distraction. You see, my friend, it's important for you to know that it's not your fault. There are so many things vying for your attention now, and this has been a theme that I often talk about over the last couple of months, but this is where we're really getting to the heart of the matter, because what really ends up happening with all of this distraction is that it really derails us from being able to focus on the things that really bring the greatest fulfillment, and it's just time to get past that. So the attraction of distraction. Number one, part of the attraction of any sort of distraction that's showing up in our life looks like this. It looks like news. It looks like marketing that's coming at you. It looks like social media. It looks like notifications and alerts. Oh, and all that is on top of trying to keep your attention on your kids and your family and your job and your health and your deadlines and all of that. Do you feel the weight of this? Of course you do. You live it every day. Why is it different now than ever before? Well, partially because there's so much coming at us. As a matter of fact, recent research has shown us that we receive enough information and data flying at us in any given week that would be the same amount that could crash a laptop. You can understand how heavy that is. Laptops nowadays can do some incredibly powerful things. We can run almost our entire life off of these things. And yet we have more information and more things vying for our attention and distracting us that could crash a laptop more than any other time in history. And so this is really important for you to be able to notice where it's coming from, right? Awareness itself is transformational, and so for us to be aware of this is going to be really helpful. You can't battle what you can't see, at least not very well. So this is going to be important for us to win this war for our attention and affection, right? So the other thing that's interesting is all of these notifications and this stuff flying at us is actually stuff that actually triggers neurotransmitters in our bodies, in our minds. It grabs our attention because it's interesting, and we get this cool little dopamine hit, right, of neurotransmitters. This is the feel-good chemicals inside of our body, inside of our minds, and they feel really good. And so even though it may not be productive, even though it's not helpful, and even though it distracts us from a lot of things, there's this kind of like this initial feel-good about it. It's kind of like when you eat something that's like, oh, that was so good, and later on you're like, oh, I got a bellyache or ate too much, and so on. All right, so what do we do about this? How do we stay focused in the midst of all of these things coming at us? Okay, by the way, it's almost tax season, or it is tax season. Have you got that done yet? You see what I'm talking about? This is that focus stuff. This is the things that keep vying for our attention. How do you stay focused? Number one is to recognize, right? Number one is to recognize that everything is important. Like, everything is important. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be in your life. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be in your career or your business. So everything is important. The problem is when every moment, everything is important. Okay, this is about priority, and I want you to understand the difference between the tyranny of the urgent and the priority of the important, right? It's about priorities. Okay, so if you recognize that everything's important, then that's going to be number one, is that you don't have to necessarily sell out and get rid of those things that are valuable to you, right? Those things that meet your values and help you feel like you're living a good life. It's just a matter of how. So let's talk about priority. Priority over important, and really priority is about the moment, with a day. See, there are some things that, as of right now, may have a higher priority of importance, and you can handle them now, and other things you may need to table till tomorrow or in the next hour or the next week and so on. So let me give you an example. We're about ready to leave on vacation tomorrow, and I'm very excited about that. And yet there are all of these important things that we need to get done to prepare for this. We got to pick up the luggage rack, and then I've got to mount it on the car, and we've got to pack, and then, oh, by the way, our Airbnb canceled on us, so we had to find a new place to stay, and so there's a lot of important things to handle. And yet at the same time, What's really important is also for me to get my work done, for me to make this video so that you can have some great resources to do what you want and be what you want and have what you want. And so I've got to get that done too. But you know what? Right now, in this moment, what's important and what is the priority is making this video for you. In about an hour, I'll probably get out there and put the luggage rack and start packing for the vacation. But what is it that's in the moment that's going to be the priority? And give that and only that your attention. How do I do that? Here's the truth. In order for us to be able to stay focused, it's all about saying no. Focus isn't about what you're saying yes to or what you're focusing on in the moment or all the different things you got to focus on. Focus is about saying no. Because the only way you can focus on one thing is when you're saying no and unfocusing on everything else. So how do I get to that place? Somebody once told me that you must have ruthless no's in order to get to a relentless yes. That's so good, and I want you to hear that. We must have ruthless no's in order to get to a relentless yes. What is that thing that is so critically important in this moment, on this day, or this week, or this month, that you can't not focus on because it's relentless? It's so important for you to have accomplished or to have in your life. Everything else you get to say no to. Everything else for this moment, for this time, is too small for your time and attention, right? So that's how we get really focused. Also, it's important to understand the definition or the origins of the word focus, the origins of the word decide, because that's really what focus is on. In order to have the relentless yes, you need to decide what that yes is. And you see, the origins of the word decide are from the Latin roots, and it means to cut or to cut off. Interesting. Some clues here, right? Having a relentless yes means ruthless no's, which means deciding on what you're going to cut off, cut out. Watch this. We have to be able to cut these out of our sight. What's in front of us? What are we visioning? What are we seeing? That means our internal visions as well as what's in our environment around us. But it also includes the sounds. What are some of the sounds that are going on right now that might be distracting you from what you need to be or want to be focusing on? Right? Could it be music playing in the background? Could it be your alerts and alarms going off? Could it be the kids playing in the other room? It could be a lot of things, and so how do we deal with that? Focus also has to do, by the way, these are all your senses, your sight, your sound, and your feelings. And when I say feelings, I'm talking about your tactile feelings, which is things you can touch. Like if there's a lot of things in your environment, it's going to feel cluttered up, or things you're tripping on, or so on and so forth. That's the tactile feel. But then there's also the internal proprioceptive feels that we have. I know it's a fancy term, proprioceptive. It just means the feelings you have inside, your emotions. Okay, what's going on there that's vying for your attention? Okay, maybe you just got off a call that was like, that's awesome. Like the call I got on Saturday morning saying, hey, guess what? We've canceled your reservation that you're coming in 2 days to do your vacation, so good luck on your vacation, right? All of a sudden that emotion was rising up in me and distracting me from what I intended to do on Saturday. Interesting, right? Okay, there's two more. Your smell and your taste. Now, the vast majority of what we take in our lives and what's vying for our attention and helps us to decide and to focus and to have a relentless yes is really those three senses. Your sight, your sound, and your feelings, or the touch, if you will. Okay? But the smell and taste have a big part to play in this too. When I was a kid, my favorite toy that I got for my birthday was the Incredible Hulk. Now, you gotta understand, when I was a kid, action heroes, right, the little action heroes you can buy at the store, they were only like this big, right? I had a Luke Skywalker and I had several other characters. But this particular one was the Incredible Hulk, and he was my favorite. He was my absolute favorite. And when I got the Incredible Hulk, he showed at my house, I opened the package, I about came out of my skin because he was this tall. That was the first time that we saw toys at this size, and he was huge, and he had this massive brick wall that I could break down. But what was interesting is as soon as I ripped open that package, there was this pungent smell of a certain type of plastic that they'd made this Incredible Hulk out of. Part of it was bendy, part of it was hard, but it was this really interesting pungent smell. I mean, like super strong. And because I was so excited in the moment and that smell was present, it triggered in me some sort of feeling of excitement, almost overexcited, right? Overstimulated, if you will. And even to this day, a few decades later, I won't tell you how many decades, but a few decades later, Although it's very rare for that plastic to be around, every once in a while I'll get a quick sniff or smell of that plastic, and I'll instantly go back to my 8-year-old self or 7-year-old self and the Incredible Hulk and getting the gift of a lifetime. It's amazing. But see, just the smell of that plastic distracted me from whatever I'm in or doing in the particular moment. Same thing can happen with tastes, all right? So you get the idea. Focusing is about saying no. Saying no is about having ruthless no's to develop a relentless yes. And the only way you can do that is to decide to cut off everything else by paying attention to your senses and what's going to be getting your attention for your senses. We're doing good, right? So let's move into the next piece here, because one is about recognizing the attraction of distraction, right? You got to recognize where this is coming from. Number two is to talk about what it all needs to look like. Focus, relentless yeses. The third part is what I call having a foxhole. Now, if you've ever watched war movies, or heaven forbid you've been at war, there's something called a foxhole, and it's basically a hole in the ground that's been dug out or blown out through some sort of arsenal, and soldiers will dip down in there. And so when soldiers are down in there, they're doing this for safety. And so what happens if a soldier decides to pop his head up and look outside the foxhole? Yeah, he gets shot at, right? And sometimes ends up dying from that. And so this is what's really about, a lot about life is about. In our foxhole, we can become laser focused on that which is the most important, right? The most important priority. But when we stick our head up to take a look at the distractions, we're getting shot at. It's literally the enemy trying to take us out from focusing on that which is going to help us have our dreams and our goals. We don't want that. Think of it this way. Guy Kawasaki said that, what was the words he used? He said, your environment is always stronger than your will. So when we talk about our senses, what's going on around you? What can you create a foxhole with to the point where there's nothing that can distract you? No phone calls, no nothing. Nothing can distract you. As a matter of fact, I knew a person in business one time that decided that finding clients was so critically important to them that they created themselves a foxhole where they would go into their office and they would lock the door, close all the blinds, turn off all the phones, and actually hand their device to their assistant. And then their assistant demanded that he hand over his trousers, his pants. He would literally stand in his skivvies in his office and make phone calls because he wasn't coming out of his office because he'd be exposed, right? That would be embarrassing. And so it made him stay focused. Do you need to be that extreme? I don't know. You have to decide that for yourself. The last piece here about this foxhole stuff is to consider Sherlock Holmes. Now, if you've ever read any of the stories or watched some of the television series, I really love the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Sherlock Holmes, he had what he called his mind palace, okay? His mind palace was basically the place that he went to inside himself, internally in his mind, where he could actually focus and figure things out. As a matter of fact, he got so good at going to his mind palace that he could literally turn off the other senses, right? Close his eyes so you didn't see. He was basically able to focus so that his ears weren't hearing other sounds or people talking and so on. He went to this little mind palace, and that's why he was so genius at what he did. So your foxhole, although it's important to have something physical in your environment for that, you can also have a mental version as well, wherever you need to do that, especially in a place where it's just not easy to get by yourself. Look at all the stuff. Look at all these resources you're getting to be able for you to be able to focus, because there's only one purpose with focusing. It's getting what you want. That's what focus is all about. That's what success is all about, is getting what you want. And so let's help you to stay focused. All right, the last thing that's going to help you with focus, okay? It's not the last thing, but it's the last thing that I'm going to talk about. One more thing with helping you with focus is really increasing desire for whatever it is that you want. What is that compelling, heck yes outcome that pulls on you so much that it drives you in that direction? You can also look at it in terms of like raising the necessity of that particular thing or outcome that you're looking for, right? Think about this in terms of like last minute deals. Like you ever get an offering, like Black Friday deals, right? You know, Black Friday, it's like you're only going to get this today, this pricing is today, and we could run out of these things, and it creates what we call scarcity, right? And so what do you need to do to raise the necessity so that you don't miss out on that deal? Like, set yourself a timeline. A due date could help you stay focused. Now, notice I didn't say deadline, right? Feel the weight of that. Deadline. Well, if I don't make this, I'm dead. That's just not helpful, and that's not true. But if it's a due date, now it's pregnant with possibility. So what if you were to get so compellingly interested in a desire such that you couldn't not have it, and then you set yourself a due date pregnant with possibility? How much would that drive you to stay focused? Could be pretty powerful. Okay? What about if your power's about ready to be shut off? And hopefully you've never experienced this, but sometimes we all have had times in our finances where, geez, they're going to turn the power off on us. And you got to scramble to find the bucks to keep that on because you only got until tomorrow at 5 o'clock before we shut it off. That's what creates the raise of necessity, the increased desire for accomplishing something. So, as a recap, recognize the attraction of distraction. Where are things showing up that are distracting you? And turn them off, tune them out, do what you got to do with that. Secondly, remember that focus is about saying no. Get your relentless yes, your ruthless no's, and decide, cut off everything else. Then design yourself a foxhole and a mind palace so that you have a place where you can focus. You see, this is not about the willpower of trying to push out other distractions. You'll get exhausted. Your willpower will wear out. It fatigues like a muscle. What this is about creating habits so that those distractions don't even show up to begin with. And now it's cake. Now you've got all of your willpower and your energy to focus into creating and doing the thing that's going to get you the result that you want. Okay, this is good stuff. I hope you love it. And I appreciate you. Let me know what you think about this. Be great. It's what you're made for. Talk later.